Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for showing up. I guess I'll just start when I first kind of like came here. A little bit before that, though, born and raised in Iowa. 5 boys, 1 girl for the family. 4 of the boys went into the Navy right out of high school, and Phil, my brother, has passed. He eventually moved to Denver. After the Navy, I eventually moved to Fort Worth. And the job that I had there was, it was best that I left. And so I left, moved to Denver with Phil and his wife, and then we was probably about a month I was with him, and he says, well, Bernie, we're leaving Denver, we're going to Grand County. And I said, where's Grand County? He said, just go ahead and follow me. So follow us right up over the hill. So up over the hill we came, and this was like in probably March, late March of '79, early April, okay, I'm sorry. And so drove into the county and went to Winter Park, and didn't think too much of it at all. And Granby was Granby, and I thought, okay, so went to Hot Sulphur. For some reason, I really liked Hot Sulphur, but it was hard that there wasn't really any place, or at least at the time we couldn't find a place to see if we could stay. My brother Phil and his wife Carol, they had bought some land in the Highlands, and they had bought 2 lots a long time ago, and they were going to build some spec homes. So the last place came to Grand Lake, and it was like, wow, this is something else. And so I just had a wild hair, and I walked into the town hall, and I said, you guys hiring for the summer? And they said, yes, we are. And I says, what do I have to do? What do I have to fill out? And he said, nothing, just come back.
Just show up.
And so mid-May, we got up here, and I started in mid-May of 1979. And so the summer, back in Fort Worth, I was working in an office. I was working for Radio Shack at the corporate office, and so went from there to, like I said, born and raised. We were born and raised on a farm, so outside was what we all loved, and so got this job as outside. And I go like, wow, this was awesome. I loved it right off the bat, because this is what I liked. It was me working and everything, and we the gentleman that was in charge was Don Weber, and that was Danny Schneller's grandfather. Ben Schneller's, he was their son-in-law. So Don was a farmer from Nebraska, and is about as cantankerous as any farmer you'd want to know. But I was raised around those kind of people and everything, and you just what they told you to do as a young man, you just did. You know, you didn't try to throw out words or try to do something different. They told you to dig the hole like this, you dug the hole like that. And then when they left, you dug it the way you want. And then when somebody had been able to be coming back, you start digging it the way they wanted it. That's what they expected out of you. So summer was just busy. They had all kinds of things going on, and at the same time, they got a new water supervisor, and that was Bill Hageman. Bill and I come at the same time, and so me and him got to work together a lot, quite a bit. We really did. We back and forth, because he needed help, and there was nobody there to explain to him or tell him where stuff was at or anything. But so Don had worked in at Winter Park on the hill before you took this over here, and so there was a couple of young guys that got hired at the same time I did, and they were going to supposedly they were going to be working through the winter, and I wasn't going to have a job during the winter. But back then, when summer stopped here, which was Labor Day, and that was everywhere up here, and then everybody left. There was nobody else coming up at all, and so you had until you had snow, and Lord knows when that would be. They would hope at least by Christmas time they would have enough snow for the ski area and stuff like that. But Don said, Bernie, I said, you gonna stay? I said, yeah. I said, you looking for a job? And I said, oh yeah. So he sent me over to this gentleman in Winter Park that was in charge of the machines and grooming and all that stuff and everything. So I go and talk to him, and he said, well, you know, you come highly recommended. I said, I do. And he goes, yeah. He said, if you want the job, it's yours. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to have the job. And so this was like mid-November or something. He said, just keep in touch with me, and I'll get in touch with you, and whenever we want you to come in. I said, okay. So I'd never been to the bottom of a ski hill ever. I'd never been on a ski hill whatsoever. And so I thought, well, okay, well, I'm here. So I walk to the bottom of the ski hill, and I look up and I'm going, no way, no, how, you can't do this. When I came, I never did try to ski, because that terrified me. I just looked at it and I was thinking, no, I'm not going to do that, not at all. But so came back, worked at restaurants, doing dishes, cutting trees down, cutting firewood up, just any kind of job. Even during the summer, you had 2 or 3 jobs. Businesses would need you, and you were free, and you make some money, but so then it was I think it was about that second week in September. It was when I was going to be done that week, so I walk in, and Don would always be sitting in the middle of the bay, and he'd sitting on a chair, have a cigarette in his mouth, and he'd just be sitting there contemplating whatever. And he looked at me and he said, well, did you get the job? And I said, yes, I got the job. And he said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, you know, I would love to stay here, but there is no job. And he goes, well, I don't know about that. So next thing, one of the young kids walked in, and he said, I know you're not going to believe this, but Don looks at him and says, what are you doing here? You're fired. and I'm sitting, I'm just out there, and the kid goes, you can't fire me, I quit. So the kid just got up and walked out the door. About 10 seconds later comes the other kid in. Don looks at him and said, what are you doing here? You're fired. And the kid goes, you can't fire me, I quit. He turns around, looks at me, and says, you want a job? And I said, yes, I do. So that was the start of 40 years and 5 days working for the town of Grand Lake. That's how it started out. I thought, wow, okay. And so that first winter, we had over 20 inches, 200 inches of snow, 200 inches. I was just like, oh my goodness, what did I do? And but there wasn't really any homes, and the roads that were there might be 1 or 2 or something, and it was a lot easier plowing than what it eventually came to. But winter was just brutal, and of course, whenever the businesses all closed, then they had businesses those same people had businesses in Winter Park. And they would take all their wares and stuff, and they'd go over there and get ready to open up their businesses over there. And so then all of these people that worked, they would leave from all these rental homes that they had. So then in the spring, when they came back, everybody was so happy to see them because it was springtime. So all the same homes that were here were just waiting for the people that left the year before. I mean, they were just went from Winter Park to Grand Lake, Winter Park to Grand Lake. It was just, it was nothing like what it was now. And but winter was very interesting because we had a gas station, and Sharps, I think, were open. Had a Allmarker, the food market was open, and probably 6 bars, 7 bars, so like that, maybe not that many, but it was quiet, and it took a while to get used to being so quiet, and you definitely got out of the house, even if you had to meet everybody at the bar or whatever. You just didn't want to be by yourself all the time, which would be real easy to do. So get done with that the first couple of years, and then of course, it was, struggling all the time money-wise. I mean, the town could only do so much, and you had to have other you had to have a job. You just had to do whatever anybody wanted. You just would do if you get a little bit extra money. It didn't. That wasn't no big deal. But I just lost my mind just for a second. Well, that's gone. So, it was just so quiet. You could go out at night, and you could almost hear the snow falling on the ground. It was so quiet and so beautiful. It was just like so much snow. We had snow on fence posts that would be there all year long, whatever fell, because we really didn't have any wind. I was always amazed that like 3, 4, 5 foot of snow on a round wood post, just like, holy moly. Trees were just full of snow. I mean, it was just absolutely gorgeous. And of course, snowmobiling wasn't as busy, but it was going on. So years later, it was just me and Don for the longest time, and so we would hire somebody would come in just for the summer or whatever, and then it eventually came to where we had to hire someone else, and John Henry Roan, he came to work for it with Don and I, and so there was 3 of us working public works, and still Bill just by himself, so we all had to help each other all out to get by. We where the Living Word, the church, of course, that was the old school, and that was where the town hall was, and so the thing was heated by coal, and the furnace was coal, so the first winter, that was part of my job, was they would deliver the coal, and I had to go in the morning, make sure there was coal being fed in, and then I would have to break up all the clinkers and everything, and then pull them all out of there, and then some more could go in, and then at night before you left in the evening from work, you'd have to go do the same thing again. And then about once a week, you would have to crawl into the furnace and pull everything out, and so you could start all over again. And I just like holy moly, this is so the clinkers, which I never did quite understand what that means, but that's what they were called. So you would just throw them outside, and in the cars you would drive over them or whatever. But there were several times when a belt might not work or something, and you'd go into the town hall in the morning and it was cold. I mean, frost on the inside because something happened to the furnace, and then you'd be scrambling and everything. But it was a beautiful, beautiful building and everything for the town hall, and wasn't but a couple of years after that, that's when someone wanted to get the school. And so the town wanted the school too, so the town was willing to give up that piece of property for a piece of property where the school was at, and it all worked out to where we ended up moving to the little old library here. That was where the town hall ended up being. The people that wanted the old school got the old school, and then we got our school, and which was really exciting. It was really all right, and we could almost immediately. It seemed like, looking back on, almost immediately, you could see more families with kids coming and trying to stay in the Grand Lake area instead of in the Granby area or whatever. And it was, there for a lot of years, it was, well, we grew up with everybody and all the kids and everything and all the plays and everything. There was a lot going on with the school and stuff and everything. So it was, I noticed that when we did lose it, that you did see that most people, if they had a child or children, they moved closer to Granby or whatever. We kind of lost that little part of our community, but we still are a pretty good community. So then after that, it was just, the town was so busy for just the few businesses that would be open. Well, I shouldn't say that, because summertime, all the businesses were pretty much open. Wintertime, they would all close down and just be a couple of people, and just back and forth. But it was heaven sent. It was like you were really, really excited to see people, and you were really excited to see people coming back and opening it up to businesses, and more people renting the homes and everything. The few that were around here. And just saying hi and getting to see people you hadn't seen all winter, because once you were over here, once you were over in Winter Park, you didn't really need to go to Winter Park, because you had enough problems here in Winter Park, and the same thing there. But we, as a town, it seemed like we just kept going. It was, the businesses weren't really expanding or anything, but slowly but surely. One thing about Grand Lake, it does expand, but it doesn't expand at anybody's rate. It just at its own rate, and whatever that is. The downtown area for me, watching it grow, would be, if something was new, it was going to be something that was going to be remodeled. It wasn't going to be it wasn't going to be anything new for the longest time. And so then more and more people, a few more people came in, and then kind of exciting thing happened at the Spirit House. Kennelly's from Illinois, they bought that, and John. He brought the Independent Sports Club with him, and it was back where he was in Peoria. And so we formed an Independent Sports Club, which was raising money for kids at the high school, or kids, and it was a overwhelming success for us, and a lot of things happened, and then for us to have money makers and stuff, we sold raffle tickets and whatever else. But probably the biggest thing that we did was the Colorado State snowmobile races that we had, and of course, right out in the middle of Grand Lake is where it was at, and for some reason the town thought that I should plow the racetrack for them, and I said, out on the middle of the lake. He goes, yeah. So needless to say, we drilled, we did augured holes just to see how deep it was, and so I'd go out there and plow. I had a place plowed out to get out on the track, and I remember I'd plowing and the doors open, and in, just in case something were to go wrong, whatever. And then Chris, of course, Chris Russ back there, he would come out and take a look at it, and you know, and you're just like, yep, looks good, looks good. We had the track was always really pretty good. The bad thing that we had was that when you plowed snow from one side or to the other, that extra weight that was on that ice, and they still pump just like what they pump now, and water come up, waters go down, goes up and down. So it was always kind of hard to have a really good track, but it worked out pretty good, and we had maybe 2 years, 3 years, and then we went on Shadow Mountain and did it there for a couple of years, but and the Independent Sports Club put that on, and then I don't know, it was just that was exciting. I thought that was exciting because we would raise, well, we raised at least 10 to 12,000 every year, and 10,000 we would give in scholarships to the kids graduating from high school. So when I was the last time I was the president of the sports club, the last time that we went and gave money to Middle Park or to the kids, we had given $300,000 over the period of however many years it was. So I thought I really that was always exciting. When I came here first, it was a pickup truck with wood, a box, and that was the trash vehicle that we had, and so all the trash cans, everything we had around were just, and so I'd pick them up, have to throw it in the back of the truck, and then have to drive it to Granby to the dump, crawl in there, dig everything out, crawl it all back out, come back. And if it was really a busy day or whatever, I might have to do it twice in one day. And we did that for several years. Of course, the frontage at the lake was, one year it'd be rocks, we'd move rocks around, another year we'd put up fence posts, and then another year we'd go back to the rocks, and I can remember it was maybe 6, 7, 8 years into it, we finally put in a concrete walk pad. And I told Don, I said, that looks so good. He goes, why do you say that? I said, because I don't have to move rocks, or I don't have to change them and then put in a fence post and then pull them all out. I said, I'm thinking this is going to be permanent, so this looks good to me. But we did a lot of things that we really didn't have any money to do anything with, but we still got stuff done. And you would just keep working at it, and over the years, the town kept being known a little bit better and a little bit better. Although I can say one thing always, this was a community that always looked after each other. It was, back then it was, everybody knew if somebody was struggling or whatever, and it was always like, just, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that for them, and it's always been like that. And even to this day, that's one of the beautiful things about Grand Lake, is that it is a community. And you know, I've said it before, where summertime we don't have much choice, but during the winter, if you want to come to Grand Lake, you've got to make a decision, because it's 16 miles up the road, and it's just a little cul-de-sac, and then you got to turn around, go back 16 miles. So if you want to come, you want to be here, and so that's a plus for us. And it's I don't know, it always felt really good for me. I really felt home, and I don't want to get into too much stuff, but I will admit, I'll tell everybody that when I went into the Navy, after high school and everything, and I was born and raised and a good Catholic, and so when I went in the Navy, I just said, I know better for myself than anybody else, so I just walked away from the church, and from Jesus, I just walked away from him. When I came here, I honestly believe that he is the one that sent me here, because he wanted me to, I can always say, work for the town of Grand Lake. That was such a good feeling for me, to be of service. When I retired from that, it automatically went right into the church, my Catholic church. Just service. I just felt that so strong, and I was able to do that. And I hope that a lot of times, well, there was a lot of things that the mayor or the town manager did not need to know what was going on, and just do it, and that's just the way it was, and everybody was happy, and it worked great, and so it was 2016. Jim over here calls me into the office, and so I got something to tell you, Bernie. I'm thinking, oh boy, Jesus Christ, what do I do now, man? Okay. So he goes, well, he said, her honor, Judy, and myself, Jim, he says, we put you in for this. It was the Colorado Cities and Towns for Municipal Hero Award for Public Works. And so I said, no, sorry, you can't, I'm not gonna do it. No. He goes, oh, it's already done. So I said, okay. Well, I said, so he gave me this letter that they had sent to him so they could read about me, and it was such an unbelievable nice letter. To this day, I read it every now and then. I just like, holy moly, that what they said about me, what I did here in the town, and I never looked at it like that. I just looked at it was just this was my job. This is what we do. This is what I do, and just to make it run and make people and hopefully help people in the town. And so I got that award, and I thought, man, that was, at first I was a little upset because this is just my job. I didn't need anything special or anything to be said about it, but as I thought about it and everything, it was very a nice award that was given to me, and I really do, to this day, I still appreciate it very much. But so I don't know, there was a lot of things that we did because we didn't have any money that we did anyway, and it was just, it was a lovely place to be. I think COVID helped us in some ways because we all were out walking around. Nobody was staying in their homes. That was never going to happen. But we kind of got discovered by people from other places in the United States come and homeschool kids, work from home and stuff. And I think after that, our wintertime economy has increased somewhat, for sure. And summertime is maybe a little bit too much, but when you have only one way in and one way out, that's just part of it. But we still got our town back after September, October. We still do get our town back. So some people can't say that. And of course, the Three Lakes and Rocky Mountain National Park and us, you know, I mean, it's like heaven sometimes, it really is. So if you have any questions, it's time for me to stop, okay?
Well, let's talk about these other awards too.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
this, let's get this. So it was a municipal hero award, and so it was given to me in 2016, and then here in 2019, I got this, and it was the state of Colorado, the House of Representatives, convened in the 72nd General Assembly, and then it says Bernie McGinn, the Colorado House of Representatives recognizes Bernie McGinn as an exemplary career of service to the town of Grand Lake. Bernie was recognized with the Colorado Municipal League's Municipal Hero Award of 2016 and has served as an unpresuming public servant. Bernie has rightfully gained the respect of the Grand Lake community and his commitment, and has been recognized throughout Colorado. The Colorado House of Representatives thanks Bernie for his remarkable career and continues diligent service in Grand Lake. On this day, 13th day of June 2019, State Capitol Denver, K.C. Becker. Well, so I got it on the 16th, and then I got this on the 19th. 2019, 3 years later, I'm thinking, wow, that was that had to go through a lot of stuff, I guess, to get it. But yeah, that's like I said, still is special. Yes, Jimmy.
How old were you when you first rolled in?
I was 29. I turned 29. Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can you tell us much about the earlier days of Buffalo barbecue?
Oh, boy. Yes. Yes. Well, when I come, they had the grease pole, they had, all the old stuff that they did for Buffalo barbecue, and they had the pit, and we got the buffalo in and wrapped them in burlap and soaked them and threw them in this big pit, and which had brick lining in it, and you threw the aspen in there, got the aspen going, and you had a bunch of aspen. Then you just start throwing these big chunks of buffalo in there with this wrapped up in stuff, and get everything thrown in. And then you had the lid, metal lid you threw on it, and put some dirt over the top of it and some other stuff, and someone got to sit there and watch it. Of course, that was always, there was a few drinks taking place going on there. But it would be, if I remember correctly, 18 hours or maybe even a little bit more than that. And then we would have it, then we would have the buffalo here, and the pit was where the library is now. It's right around in there is where it was at. And so had this long rebar with a hook on it, and you just start pulling these things out, and honestly, you just take them right to the line, and the women would just be unrolling them all out and just start slicing them up. Oh man, goodness, it was so good, it was. And normally, after everybody went through it and all that, and it was all done, they would auction off what was left, and I think they would almost make more money auctioning up. People wanted that buffalo, and it was several days. Of course, you'd be walking down the street. I'd be walking down the street, and the buffalo, the sheriff, and all that be with all the guns and everything, and off you go up to jail, and somebody's got to bail you out. And and I'm saying, I'm working. And, no, not now, you're not. So I don't know. The town waited for that. That was our one thing during the summer. It wasn't every weekend. It was just one thing, and and also the other towns, they all had their one thing also. but it was never ever on top of someone else's. Like we had ours, whatever day it was, whatever weekend, the other people would have theirs. It was never ever the same weekend, or not even, maybe wasn't even close. Everybody had their weekend day, and everybody would come and enjoy each one, because it was hard. You know, the chamber would put it on, and of course all the volunteers. It took a lot of volunteers, and yeah, it was good music, and yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, a lot of horses. I think when I first came, I believe that there was 1, 2, 3, I think 3 or 4 livery, what do you call it? But and at that time back then, you could take your horse into the park. You know, there was a lot of, and it up to the lookout. There were horse rides up there. You could get on the horse. You could rent, and there was a horse trail. Well, it was a trail, but everybody could go up there. Instead of walking up there, you could go into the park. You could go up through a bit by the water plant. There was a lot, and you could stay at night, and you didn't have to bring in hay or anything. You could let your horses go into the and just let them eat the grass and everything. You know, it was a western feel to the town and stuff. It was yeah. And then at nighttime, you'd be taking the horses, and they had a place up by the water plant or someplace up there, or wherever, I can't remember now, but they'd spend the night there, and then they'd run them all back down in the morning, and it'd be like it was something else. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Jim?
You want to tell them about your technological evolution and book face?
There is my technological advancement. I don't, well, Jim made me get a phone. Let's put it that way. There it is. He made me get a phone. I said, no, I'm not getting a phone. He made me get a phone. So there it was. And he says, you're going to go on FaceTime, is it? Whatever. And I said, no, I'm going to go on, Bookface. And I said, you can find me on Bookface. Well, where's that at? I said, I'm on it, but nobody else is. But yeah, Jim said, yeah, he was part of it. I said, no, you're not leaving this office until you take this phone with you. So yeah, and that was okay. But I fought it as long as I could. So, any other questions?
What was your position in the Navy?
I was communications yeoman. I went in '68, of course, in the throngs of Vietnam, and in the Navy there were radiomen and then there were yeomen, and during Vietnam the radiomen, they couldn't get enough radiomen, they couldn't get enough yeomen, so just during the Vietnam phase, the Navy started it was called a communications yeoman. You could be a radioman, you could work in certain areas, or you could be a yeoman, and back and forth, whatever. And then when in '72, when I got out, I think it was '73, they just discontinued that. But it was, I was in communications with, it was called a high net, which was you contacted with ships out in the middle of the sea. You know, you just voice message and stuff, and so that was pretty exciting. But yeah, that's what I did.
Were you stateside?
No, I got stationed right after San Diego. Went to Norfolk for my school. Then I got sent to 2 years Yokosuka in Japan. I was stationed 2 years at a communication station, and then I got a year in Vietnam. I got sent to Vietnam. So, yeah.
That was Bernie. With the equipment, all the trucks and all that kind of stuff, was that a learning how to operate those things by doing? And tell us one of the creative things that happened that while you were learning how to do it?
Well, okay, well, I did get to, Don, when he hired me, he was an equipment operator back in, back in Nebraska. So he did teach me how to run a grader, which was very nice. The creative things I did with that grader was like you learn that there were certain things in the road, if you were going too deep, you could tear them right out, and which I did several times. So that was a learning experience. But yeah, I had, when I came there, I had never been in a loader. I had never been in any kind of a farm, a tractor and stuff. But no, so it was all a learning experience, and we had what little bit of equipment we had: a grader, had a loader, and then we had a Unimog, which is that German Mercedes-Benz. It was all-wheel drive, and it was there when I got there, and so I got to drive that for several years. But then I eventually went to the grader, and but yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on, and not too much equipment to do it in. Well, is it getting close? Not yet, huh? So, no, I guess I have, yes, sir?
You left your family, you moved to Colorado.
Oh, yes.
What about your family?
Well, true. Yeah, my sister would shoot me if I didn't. So we came here, and of course, Mom and Dad and my sister Mary, they're still back in Iowa, and so they immediately came out here, and they just, well, they fell in love with it. But so over the years, I guess the big thing was that they always came in September, and it always fell over the Lariat's golf tournament. We had the Lariat Slough had the golf tournament, and which was a huge weekend for everybody. It was brought lots of people in, and Mom, Dad, and my sisters. They just loved coming here, and they could ride around with us golfing and everything. And then, of course, my mom, she never met a person she didn't like, and she just she could make friends with anybody. She could make everybody feel very comfortable around her and everything. And so everybody just, the next year, everybody's wondering, when's Mom coming? When's Mom coming? And it was, they loved it just as much as Phil and I loved it. And yeah, it was, they did all kinds of things here, and great memories of bringing a family, and yeah, and they would stay a week, 10 days sometimes, so we got to stay a long time, and which was very nice, very nice. Yeah.
How about your trip to Rome?
Oh yeah, well so when I retired, I went in and told Jim that I was done, and he goes, "What'd you get done with?" I said, "No, I'm done." And he goes, "No, you're not." I said, "Yeah, I am." So we talked, and I says, but I was given a chance to go to Rome free. Had the place to stay, had the airline tickets bought for and everything. A person that I knew had won 4 tickets to go to Rome, and so what it cost was $500 because we helped. That was going to be the taxes on the $10,000 deal, whatever it was. So for $500, my retirement to me was I got to go to Rome and spend 10 days in Rome, which was that was never on my mind that ever, and that was unbelievable. We stayed right in Rome. Went with my priest, Father Michael, and 2 other people from the church, and we just jumped all over Rome and went and had masses said at all the different places. It was unbelievable. Got to go to the Colosseum. It was being worked on, and you just like look down in there, and you just like, man, oh man, this is. They had all kinds of artifacts that they had dug out between. It was pretty interesting. They dug out between the stones and stuff, and there would be bread or seeds or whatever from the Colosseum days, just way back when, and you could see that families would go and probably have, maybe bring meals with them or whatever, and they were showing just all the different kind of stuff that they would bring, food-wise and stuff. I don't know. It was a very exciting time, and then got back and I spent about another 5 days, and then I was gone. I was done. It was. I had no idea, but yeah, it's like the good Lord said, "Thank you, Bernie. This is what I'm going to do for you." And I said, "Thank you, Lord." I don't know if that's true or not, but it sure felt like it.
And we also thank you, Bernie.
Thank you,
Yes,
Dave.
we do.
Call Bernie, I'm telling you.
Thank you, sir.